Okay, so part two of the Media Queries intro, we're going to get into exactly what you're going to be doing with your Wayback Web project now. So for right now, we've just sort of changed random things. We're going to just continue doing that just to make sure that we can get all of our media queries like working. Again, we're just kind of testing stuff, just like we do, when we connect our files. We've just been doing like a body background color. We're going to do the same with our media queries. And what we will do is we're just going to set them all up. Okay, we're going to keep using the max width, and we're going to use those suggested Twitter Bootstrap breakpoints, and we're just going to keep working down. So we're going to use 992 for the next one. And I'm going to leave this because I'm just going to use this. I'm just going to keep using this as my test because gradients are fun. So I have this. Do the same thing here, and as we go, I'm going to make lots of comments. So I'm going to say this is going to be 1200 pixels or smaller. And then I'm going to say this one is going to be 992 or smaller. Again, this is the maximum width that these styles will apply to, and downward until you call another media query. And then this will kind of take up where this one left off. So the next one we'll do is 768. Oops. Okay, so we'll put our 768 here. Okay, so these styles here, well, let's start up here. These styles will apply from 1200 to 993. These styles will apply from 992 to 769. These styles will apply from 768 to one before your next breakpoint, which is going to be 480. So apply to 479. Math. That's how that works. Okay, so we'll put our 480 here because again, that's going to be our max. All right, and you want to set them up in de-incrementing order because if they're not, then they won't override each other properly. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, so you should just have all of these set up, and let's just make sure that we are including our comments. All right, I'm just going to clean this up a tiny bit. Okay, whoops. And we'll say 768 pixels or smaller. And for this one, we'll say 480 or smaller. Okay, so I'm just going to make some changes here. Let's just say like red and green. That's going to be a really ugly gradient. And let's say green and aqua. Let's say blue, and we could do blue and orange. Okay, so now we should see these changes reflected every time we hit a new breakpoint. So I'll save this, we'll go back here. Let's start with our largest screen. Okay, so our largest screen is going to have all of Alex's normal style. Okay, I'm going to switch this into responsive so that I can start to drag some things around. So if I put 1366 in here, right, it's going to have Alex's normal style. But as soon as I start to drag, all right, there's my first change at 1200. There's my second change, which begins at 992. My third change here, which begins at 768. And my fourth change, which begins at 480. Okay, so now I have all my breakpoints set up and it is confirmed that they are all working. Okay, so once you have this set up, now you can actually put it to use in a way that is going to allow your site to actually be scalable. And so what's really important to keep in mind about this is that when you are working on the web, your content shouldn't look exactly the same on each device. Your content should have the same intention almost. So for instance, if I'm looking at this on mobile, okay, as you can see, some things start to get really weird, and it's obviously not going to look exactly like your desktop page. But when we're talking about the intentionality of design, you know, Alex wanted these images sort of big and kind of scaling down. But, you know, this gets kind of large, we have a lot of space here, and we have some really wonky positioning. So what you're going to do within each of your breakpoints is you're going to use your web inspector to kind of move things around to where you want them to go. So I'm going to first inspect this menu here, okay? I'll tag it, I'll target this. Okay, and so what we want to look for is we want to look for the ways that we can make this site look more intentional on our on this side screen. So I'm going to target this header, and I'm going to look for the height. Now I think the height's probably going to be coming from these menu items. So, oops. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to target this home link container. Okay. So I'm going to, well actually I'm going to back up and I'm going to see if I give this AOL container a specific height, if that's going to help me out. So I'm going to say just start with maybe 20 VW. Okay. So now things are starting to look a little more normal, right? Maybe I don't want such a huge header for this. And so what I can do is I can go ahead and I can copy this. And I'm going to paste it in the size that is going to be pertaining to what I just targeted. So this is 375, so it's going to be in the one that's obviously smaller than 480. So I'm going to put this here. Okay. And oops, looks like I didn't close that out, or I messed something up. Right? And I'm only going to leave the thing that I want to change. Okay. Let's take a look at our site again. All right. And let's make sure that that height doesn't stay. Okay, so this still looks exactly how we wanted it to look on the small desktop. Still looks pretty good. And then it's looking a little bit smaller on mobile here. Okay. So probably the one thing that we want to do also is, you know, we want to size these up, and we want to fix the width of this, and maybe make the type a little smaller, make these images bigger, and just kind of make everything like look a little more intentional. You're going to do that for each targeted screens. So just keep working here, just so I can show you some examples. Okay. So maybe let's try to give, let's see what else we got in here that we can target. Okay, so we're using image width, but we have images here, so all right, see, here's my media query. It starts to show up once it has a pertaining CSS value. Okay. So what I can do, because I only have these two A tags, and I also think Alex was using H4 in here, if I remember with these. So maybe what we'll do is we'll give these, okay, so we have a second link and we have a home link container, and they're both a flex of 1. Okay, and then this has a width of 101. So I'm going to start to just kind of move things around a bit. I don't necessarily think that this is the best use here. Okay, so Alex has this dummy class that's kind of like pushing the space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the items, the name of the item. So I have second link container and I have home link container. So I'm going to copy this, head over here. I'm going to target both those. So hashtag second link container. Oops, keep leaving that last one off. Watch out for that. Okay. Sorry, everyone. So second link container. I'm going to do the first link container.
Frank.
And I'm going to make sure that I have closed all my brackets here. I think this is an extra one. Okay. And I'm going to give this, instead of doing a flex, I'm going to give it a width. This is pertaining to the actual items in the container. So I'm going to give them a width, and I'm going to give them a width of maybe like 10 VW. And that's going to override that. It's still going to be Flexbox, but it's going to kind of override it and give it a little more space. Okay. So let's see what that's been able to do for me. So let's see, second link container. All right, here we go. So let's see. Or maybe we can try giving it a flex instead of a width. Maybe we give it a flex of 4. Okay, cool. So that's helping us out a bit. So we'll give them both maybe like a flex of 4. And then let's give them both a little bit of padding as well. So maybe like, okay, I'll move this around a little bit. All right, so I'm going to copy this. And that's fine that this didn't work, right? Because it kind of got my media query to pop up. So copy this, paste this back over here, and place in my width. Okay, and so it looks like flex is going to be a better option. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to target the whole container here, the entire container, which is the home link container. I'm going to give it a little margin on the left-hand side, just to kind of move it around a little bit. Okay, so it looks a little less tension here. And then because that kind of shrunk this one, I'll go ahead and I'll give that a little bit bigger flex size as well. So I'm going to target this home link container. I'm going to copy this whole thing in here. And I'm going to put that again in my media query for the 480. And I'm just, every time I paste something in here, I'm just checking that I've closed everything up appropriately. Okay, so let's say this home link container, and maybe let's give this a 5 or a 6. Let's see how that shakes out. Okay, cool. So that looks a lot better. Now maybe we can target what's going on with this blue text. Maybe we'll give it a different font size. Right, increase it a little bit. Okay, and then that allows this to come up once that's a bit smaller. So again, I'm going to copy this whole thing, paste it here, and I'm just going to get rid of what I don't want. So I know this is already loaded in. I don't have to do it twice. It's gonna compile from my normal style up here. Okay, get rid of this because I don't need that either. And again, just check my everything that I have everything right and closed up properly. Oops. Okay, and maybe I want to move this over a little bit so I have a little more space. So again, I'm going to use the web inspector. Okay, this is all from this here. Alright, looks like we have this dummy class that's kind of pushing everything over, so I could target the dummy class and, you know, I can make it even smaller. 0.5, something like that, just so I have a little more space to work. And now I'm just using these kind of dummy classes that just like empty classes, just to push things around. You could also use margin there as well, but that's totally fine. So I'm going to put this inside my media query as well. Right. I'm just going to indent all this in just one more. Okay. And then maybe on mobile, you know, maybe you want this to be left aligned with the type because it's going to look better in this different screen. So I'll target the You've Got Mail image. Okay, I have a width. Looks like it's sort of defaulting. So maybe I can give it a... Okay, let's try to give it a margin. Margin left. Maybe give it a negative margin. Okay, so now I got all these items aligned. Looks a little tidier. It's a little more intentional. So again, I'll copy these styles over and I will paste them inside of this media query. Okay, and again, just getting rid of the stuff that I don't want to change. Make sure that I've closed everything out properly. If you just move slow, you'll get it. Okay, I think this is looking okay. The whole theory behind this is that you don't want to go in and change everything. You just want to make a little enough changes so that your content can look well managed on each of these devices. So let's see what we can do with these images here. Okay, so what we want to do is, so here's our image container. Let's see if we can just really quick give it a different height. Alright, so if we give it a different height, it'll help us to kind of spread these images out a little bit. And maybe if we give it a margin on the top. Kind of push it down a little bit. Maybe we want these to kind of like hang out with the type. So again, I will copy this whole thing over and I'm going to paste it into this media query. Okay, make sure it's closed out. And I'm just going to get rid of everything that has already been written and just keep the stuff that I want to change. Okay, and then if you want to go back in and target those images to maybe make them a little bigger, you know, we have some weird spacing issues here. Maybe you want to make this a little taller, or, you know, for instance, maybe we want to put a little bit of padding on those items. Maybe we could do some padding top, just like 1 VW. Just kind of push it down just a little bit so everything looks a little more centered, and then again you would just copy this. And in this instance, this is already in the media query, so all I have to do is just find AOL header container. Here we go. Put that in there. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go through, and with each of your different breakpoints, right, so we'll go maybe the next one up, iPad. As you can see here, it's still looking a little wonky. So you're going to, so this is the 768, all right, so the 768 and below. You're going to do the same thing that you just did for the mobile targeted device here. And remember, the goal is that you don't have to make a ton of changes. For instance, you know, this is looking kind of okay. Maybe the type needs to be bigger. The height here definitely needs to change. Maybe we need something different going on here. Maybe these need to be a little bit bigger. So you really just want to make like some really, really simple gestural changes so that your content, again, looks intentional on each of these devices. So just one more example. Now I'm going to target the 768 and below. Okay, so that's going to be in this one. So it's going to go 768. So it's going to be 768 to 481. Because that's one before 480. Duh. Okay. So this is the one that you'll target. So I'll use my web inspector. I really want to make sure that the height of this, right? So we can find that class, write images. It's going to be you've got mail, and we want to give it a height that is bigger. All right, right now I'm actually just using the content to drive the height, but we just got to explicitly state this. Okay, cool. So we'll put the height in here. And I don't think we've used you've got mail before, so we'll grab the whole you've got mail, and we'll put that inside here. Okay, make sure we close it out, and then again we're just going to get rid of everything that we don't want to change and keep the one property value pair within the matched element that we want to change. Okay, so that will scale the height for each thing. So like I said, you're just going to go through, you're going to target each device, make your changes. Once you've made your changes, then your site will be fully scalable and you will be able to upload.